Welcome to another episode of the Building Your Family podcast. We're so happy to have you here. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of chosen family. I get so many questions about how to talk to other people, how to understand who's going to be in my inner circle and who isn't, how to avoid conflicts with my partner, how to deal with this new family formation that I didn't expect. In today's episode, we're going to cover several things. We're going to talk about why the world has changed and how it's changed and why that's really good for you and your family. We're going to talk about donor conception, donor eggs, donor sperm, or donor embryos, and how that process of accepting using the genetics of somebody else to build your family can be difficult, but that difficulty has nothing to do with your child. We're also going to discuss how to handle difficult questions from friends, family members, and the outside world, and how you can think about who should be in your extended family. My goal today is to help you feel less other, more grounded, and more intentional about your chosen family. And if you want more support, please visit our community. We have lots of resources there. So let's dive in. From our Building Your Family community, this is the Building Your Family podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Schumann, author, researcher, and reproductive medicine therapist. If you're using donor conception to build your family, if you're a heterosexual couple, a queer couple, or a single parent by choice, it doesn't matter. You're likely to have moments where you're thinking, who is going to be in my inner circle? Who's going to be my chosen family? How am I going to manage this and not feel other, not feel different from other people? So today we're going to discuss exactly that. And I'm going to help you prepare so it doesn't cause conflicts in your relationship. So the first thing that you need to remember is that family is already changing. There are so many different types of family now. I understand that you may have grown up in a world where you listen to that old saying, there's love and marriage and then the baby carriage, but that no longer exists. Sometimes it happens in a different order. Sometimes it happens completely differently. And so we really need to start to change our thinking, even if we were brought up that way, and think about what we want our family to look like. If you've been watching me for a while, then you know I've had lots of donor conceived people talk about these experiences. One in particular was Kiara Ray Shu. I had her on my podcast and she wrote a book about chosen family and what a chosen family looked like to her. So in her story, she was raised by a single mother by choice and she was so happy growing up. She felt like she had everything she needed. And she didn't have a father, but she had lots of people in her life who played these roles for her that she felt she needed. So she had one of her mother's friends take her to the father-daughter dances. She had another mother's friend take her to another event. She had so many people in her life that she felt were like uncles or aunts, even though they were not genetically related to her. Now, you'll be happy to know that she is so excited about her family and feels so good about her mother and the way that she raised her, that she decided that these people in her life are going to be her chosen family. Even when she met her donor, she decided that although he's a nice guy, she didn't want to call him dad because in some way she felt that that would diminish all the good that her mother had done. Now, that may not be the case for everyone, but for her, that was right. Now, she's decided that she wants to have relationships with donor siblings, and she also includes them in her extended family. But the point here is that she created the chosen family that makes her feel good. And that's something that's so important for you to do too. I know it's really difficult because in our world, we don't see many examples of it. There isn't anybody in the White House who looks like a modern family. We don't see a lot of it in media or in children's stories. And so I certainly understand that you may be worried that your child's going to grow up without representation, that your child's going to grow up in a world where they're going to feel other as well. So we're going to tackle that too. If you've seen my life book, then you know that I have this family tree. So in this family tree, there are places for people who've helped to create the child. And then there's the whole family. And even though the child sees that some are the same and some are different, it's important for them to know that these are the people who contributed to bringing them in the world, and this is their family. So ultimately, when you build your chosen family, these are the people who go in here. But before you do this, it's really important that you start to think about what your chosen family is going to look like. And we're going to tackle that now. And I want you to remember that you and your child and your partner, if you have one, are expanding your ideas of chosen family. And you are joining a new world of all sorts of families. You are not an exception to it. Now, you might be thinking, Lisa, that's all well and good, but how is my child going to feel included? How are they not going to feel other? How are they going to feel connected to the non genetically linked parent? And how are we going to feel like a normal family? Well, I'm going to help you learn how to do that today and think about who belongs in your extended family tree. So let's split this up into two parts: the internal work that you're going to need to do and the external work that you're going to need to do. So first, let's talk about the internal work. So very often when we grow up, we learn what family looks like, and we have images in our mind about what our family might look like. Now, sometimes we don't. So many gay couples might say, well, I really never thought I was going to have children. And so they didn't have this image. So you might have an image or you may not, but chances are you didn't grow up thinking I was going to have donor conceived children and this is what my family was going to look like. And so unfortunately, you're either underprepared or were prepared to have a different sort of family. As a result, you might feel grief and loss and maybe even some shock around the idea that you need to use the genetics of somebody that you don't know to build the most intimate relationship in your life, your relationship with your child. On top of that, you might be feeling that other people see your circumstance the way you see it, as being uncomfortable, as being other, as being different, and you feel that that will translate to your child. So this is what you really need to know. Your grief is natural. You might be feeling very hurt about this process. You might be feeling very upset about the time, the money, the energy that you've spent in fertility treatment. You might be upset about the fact that you had some difficulty getting pregnant. There's so many things in this process that might have caused you concern and upset. So, in this process, you have all of these feelings, plus you have the feeling of not being a parent yet. All of these feelings are intertwined and inseparable when you're going through it. But when you have your child, those feelings are going to separate. And you're not going to feel the same way that you felt before because now you're going to be a parent. So half of that pain is gone. Does that mean that it's all gone? No. You still may have these feelings and they may persist for some time about having a donor conceived child. Maybe you feel that you're upset that your child doesn't have your mother's dimples or your father's bushy eyebrows or your long line of genetic relatives from Greece. There could be so many things that could be bothering you, and they're all personal to each individual. Everybody's different, but we all have things that are important to us. And very often we have to reconcile that when we have donor conceived children. Now, many people, as they're going through their family building process, make the mistake of conflating these two issues. They think they're both related. So they think, well, if I'm unhappy about using donor conception, if I feel unhappy about using a stranger's genetics to build this relationship, if I'm unhappy because I'm going to feel different or I'm not going to be genetically related to my child, if you have any of these feelings, you may think, well, that's going to translate to my child. I'm not going to bond with my child. I'm not going to feel comfortable with them. Other people are going to be upset or look at me funny. There could be so many fears and anxieties connected to this, but the truth is not that. The truth is, you're going to love your child, and your child's going to love you, and you're going to be a happy family. It doesn't translate to your child. Your feeling of parenting this beautiful human being that you've helped to create is going to be wonderful. Your feelings about donor conception may continue to persist for some time, and that's okay. That is your issue to contend with. Now, you may want to work through it with your therapist or your friends. We have a beautiful community in Building Your Family where you can meet lots of other people who are going through this and take courses and get support. But regardless of how you handle it, it is something that you're going to have to deal with over time. And for some people, it's not that difficult. And for some people, it's very difficult. So for you, this is a circumstance that you're going to need to deal with over time. And that will not prevent you from loving your child. And it will not prevent you from your child loving you. Now, as you think about this concept and you separate these two parts, it's really important to think about and maybe even talk to your partner about what aspects of your life are you grieving? What did you think that your life would look like? What did you think your life would look like when you were 18 years old? How did you expect your family would develop? It's very important to think about all of those things and think about how this has impacted you, because that will inform how comfortable you are talking to other people. You really need to take care of yourself and your partner. And if you push yourself to do things that are very uncomfortable for you or are going to knock you off your feet, it's going to be really difficult for you and your family. So it's important to understand that this grief will subside and you will start to feel better over time. So you need to take care of yourself and your partner and your beautiful family that you've now created. So how are you going to do that? For everyone, it's going to be different. But this new framework that I'm going to share with you might help. So let's think about several circles. There's circles inside of circles. So the first circle is you and your partner, if you have one, or if you're single parent, maybe the people who are close to you and your child. Inside that circle is love and connection and warmth and safety. Outside of that might be the friends and family who've been on this journey with you, people who are very loving and very supportive and have had your back through this whole process. Those people are a little further out in the circle. But then that circle is going to grow. Right now, when you have a new child or you're on your family building journey, it's very natural to share your experiences with friends and family and other people in the world. The difficulty can be that if you share things, there may be questions, and you may not feel comfortable asking those questions over time. So, in many ways, it may be better to be a little bit conservative about who you share with and who you don't, because you may have to deal with those questions in the future. And so you can always tell more people. But once it's out, you can't tell fewer people. Once you've posted all your information on Facebook, the world knows and people will come out of the woodwork to ask you questions. And there's really not much you can do about that. You're going to have to deal with that. So my advice is to think about the things we've talked about so far. How are you feeling? Are you feeling raw or are you feeling sturdy? Are you feeling like you're a soapbox person? Do you like to get up and tell the world everything? Do you feel that you're a more private person and you really don't like to share everything with everyone? It really matters. And what also matters, as what we mentioned before, your feelings of grief and loss. You really need to take care of themselves. Something else that matters is your partner. If you have a partner, how is that partner going to feel? Do they feel the same as you? Are they soapbox people or are they more private people? You need to respect your partner's feelings as well as your own. Now let's talk about the next circle. A little wider out are other people. There are going to be people in your life over time that you may not know that are not like your inner circle. They're not people who know you and support you necessarily. So it's going to be hard to know and hard to predict how they will behave. And you and your partner need to make that decision together. You may be a very open person and your partner may not be. It's essential that the two of you collaborate on this. You want to make sure that both of you are on the same page. So, as you step your toe into the next circle, here are two questions you may want to ask yourself and your partner. Number one, who absolutely needs to know this information? Do you need to tell people in your community? You certainly want to tell your pediatrician. Number two, how would I feel if these new people in this outer circle don't react well to my story? So, as you put your toe into that outer circle, it's important to think through these things because you just don't know. And you need to be able to heal, as we spoke about before, your grief and your loss and get comfortable with being a parent before you have to deal with the opinions of others. And of course, it's inevitable that there will be others. As you grow with your child, your circle will get wider and wider. You will have music class and ballet practice and soccer practice. And maybe you'll have the chatty mom from the PTA. Maybe you'll see somebody in the supermarket who's going to ask you questions. Maybe you'll have somebody that is your neighbor who wonders why the child looks like one parent and not the other. And what about the preschool teacher? Your preschool teacher may know that your child was donor conceived, and they may know who's a genetically linked parent. Is that preschool teacher going to assume that your child's good at music because your partner's musical and your partner is the genetically linked parent? Is that going to make you feel other? Is that going to make you feel left out? Are you going to feel badly at Thanksgiving when people are looking at you and looking at the child and wondering who the child's genetically linked to? So you need to think about all of these things in anticipation of them happening because it's likely they will happen. And if you and your partner can think about these things and check in with each other about how you might feel, you will be able to make a better decision about that outer circle. While you're having these conversations, you may also want to add things that will help you feel more fortified as a family. So while you and your partner are talking about how you want to discuss or not discuss your family tree with other people, you may want to think about what traditions are helpful to you. Maybe you loved growing up with the celebration of Christmas, or maybe you don't. Maybe there are traditions that you really loved, like going for walks on Sundays, or maybe having dinner together on Friday nights, or like in my family, we made animal pancakes. So you can decide what is going to be special for you and your family and come up with your own traditions that could be really wonderful. They can be so joyful and really help you feel fortified as a family. As your child grows up, they are going to need to decide who to tell and not to tell about their story and how much to tell. So maybe they're going to want to tell their best friend, or maybe not. Maybe they're going to want to talk to their teacher about it, maybe not. Maybe they're going to say, hey, I really don't like my parents talking to our neighbors about it. They are entitled to their own opinions and their own decision about how open they want to be because it will be their story to share or not to share. Until then, it is your story to share or not to share. And as you grow from starting this beautiful family that may feel uncomfortable and other to you, to a world where you're feeling much more comfortable and much more solid in your understanding, you're going to need to make these decisions. And so maybe you say, if you're a single mom by choice, there's no dad in the picture. Maybe if you're a gay couple, you say, we're a gay couple. Or maybe you say, the child doesn't have a mom. Maybe there's some people who you want to know that you used a donor, but you don't want to give them more information than that. People will also probably ask who's genetically related to your child. That could be a very sensitive question, and often people don't realize that. So you can decide if you want to share that or not. You can always say, we're going to share that information with our child, and we're going to allow our child to share that with you if they feel that they want to as they grow up. But until then, we're not sharing that information. So you can decide how you're going to respond to others based upon how you feel. But before you respond, it's really important to make sure you understand how you feel and how sensitive you are to these topics, and then how your partner feels and how sensitive they are to these topics, and talk together about what makes sense for the two of you. Unfortunately, many people feel obligated to share information that they don't feel comfortable sharing with other people. Remember, you are not obligated. You are not obligated to your mother in law or your cousin or whoever is interested in your story. It's important to make sure that you have the story that you want. Maybe the story is not going to be the same as the one that you imagined when you were growing up. That's okay. And maybe our world is not giving you enough visibility to show you that there's lots of types of family. That's okay too. You can build your own family. Think through what you want your family to look like, who you want to be involved in your family, and what sorts of experiences do you want your child to have. And once you do that and are sensitive to yours and your partner's feelings, you can really start to build and create the family that you dream of. You've come so far to create this beautiful family. Make sure that you continue to create and build the story that you want, that every circle along the way is thought through carefully so that you can feel comfortable and solid in your role as parent. Now, all of this can be written in pencil. There's no reason why this can't change over time. You never know who you're going to meet and how your child's going to feel as they grow. So you can mold your story over time. What's most important is that right now you consider how you feel and how your family is going to feel, how your partner feels, how your child is going to experience some of these things, and that you really think about who should know what information at what time. It's essential to think about this ahead of time so that you won't be caught off guard. And if you want more information, please take a look at our community. We have wonderful resources there. We have courses on donor conception. We have chat rooms, stress reduction activities, and so many things that can really help you on your journey. I hope this was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you'd like more personalized support, more information, and more education, you can find it in the show notes under the Building Your Family community. We'd love to see you inside. And if you were interested in today's topic, you will really like this video.